Where did Christmas really come from? If Christmas is the birthday of Jesus, why is the date never mentioned in Scripture? Why did the apostles never celebrate it? And how did a day that is absent from the Bible become one of the most powerful and celebrated holidays on earth? Tonight, we are not here to attack tradition, but to search for truth. Because when truth is revealed, every sincere heart must decide whether to follow tradition or follow Scripture. To begin, the Bible never gives a date for the birth of Jesus. Not once. If God intended his people to commemorate this event annually, Scripture would state the date plainly. Instead, the Bible gives details that clearly show Jesus could not have been born in December. Luke tells us that shepherds were living in the fields, keeping watch over their flocks by night. According to Jewish historical sources, including the Mishnah, shepherds did not stay in open fields during the cold winter months of December through February. Winters in Judea were harsh, full of rain, cold winds, and sometimes snow. Flocks were kept in shelters during this season. This one biblical fact alone eliminates December 25th as the birthday of Christ. Another biblical detail comes from the Roman census. Luke records that Joseph and Mary traveled to Bethlehem for a census ordered by Caesar Augustus. Roman records show that censuses were never conducted during winter. Travel in December was difficult and unsafe. Roads became muddy, temperatures dropped, and families, especially pregnant women, could not travel long distances. Censuses were scheduled during pleasant seasons, typically late summer or early autumn. This further supports the conclusion that Jesus was likely born around September or October, not December. The priestly service of Zechariah, the father of John the Baptist, also provides important insight. Zechariah belonged to the division of Abijah, which served during specific weeks according to 1 Chronicles 24. When scholars calculate the timing of his service, the conception of John the Baptist, and the 6-month difference between John and Jesus, Christ's birth falls in September or October. This aligns with the Feast of Tabernacles, a celebration of God dwelling with his people. John 1:14 says, "The Word became flesh and dwelt among us," and the term dwelt literally means tabernacled. What a beautiful prophetic harmony, pointing to an autumn birth, not winter. At this point, it is also important to address the story of the wise men, the Magi, who came from the east. Many Christmas traditions place the Magi at the manger on the very night Jesus was born, standing alongside shepherds. But the Bible paints a very different picture. Matthew 2 makes it clear that the Magi arrived after Jesus was born, and by the time they reached Bethlehem, Jesus was living in a house, not a stable. This means the Magi did not witness the nativity scene on the night of his birth. Their journey likely took weeks or even months. Herod's decision to kill all male children 2 years old and under shows that the child Jesus was not a newborn when the Magi arrived. Their arrival was not a birthday celebration, it was an act of worship toward the promised king. The gifts they brought, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, were not exchanged among themselves. They were presented only to Jesus, and they carried deep prophetic meaning. This again exposes that the modern tradition of giving gifts at Christmas does not originate from the Magi, but from pagan Roman festivals such as Saturnalia. The wise men's story glorifies Christ, not Christmas. Understanding the early church's position confirms this truth even further. The apostles never celebrated the birth of Jesus. The New Testament gives no record of such observance. Early church leaders, Origen, Tertullian, and Clement of Alexandria, wrote strongly against celebrating birthdays, labeling the practice as pagan. Origen wrote that Christians should not celebrate the birth of Christ in the same way pagans celebrate the birthdays of their kings. For over 300 years after the resurrection of Christ, the Christian Church did not celebrate Christmas. It simply did not exist. So where did December 25th come from, and who established it? History is very clear. December 25th was originally a pagan Roman holiday called Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, meaning the birthday of the unconquered sun. Emperor Aurelian instituted this festival in the year 274 AD to honor the sun god Sol Invictus during the winter solstice. Romans marked this day with feasts, gift-giving, lighting candles, decorating homes with evergreen branches, singing, and celebrating the renewal of the sun. Another major celebration of that season was Saturnalia, held from December 17th to 24th. Saturnalia involved gift-giving, parties, drinking, and widespread festivity. These customs, gifts, lights, feasting, evergreen decorations, are the true roots of today's Christmas traditions. The transition from pagan festival to Christian holiday happened after Emperor Constantine legalized Christianity. Seeking to unify the empire by blending old pagan customs with Christianity, Constantine encouraged the adoption of existing festivals into the Christian calendar. In 336 AD, the first record appears of Christians observing December 25th as Jesus' birthday. In 350 AD, Pope Julius I officially declared December 25th as the day of Christ's nativity, not because of biblical evidence, but because it made conversion easier for pagan Romans who loved their winter celebrations. Even the most common symbols of Christmas have pagan origins. The Christmas tree traces back to ancient Babylonian, Celtic, and Norse traditions where evergreen trees represented life and were used in winter religious rituals. Jeremiah 10 describes a pagan practice where people cut down a tree, decorated it with silver and gold, and stood it upright in their homes, echoing the later Christmas tree tradition. Santa Claus is a fusion of Saint Nicholas, a 4th-century monk, combined with Germanic and Norse mythology, especially the figure of Odin, who rode through the sky during winter festivals. The exchanging of gifts does not come from the wise men, but from Saturnalia. The crucial question remains: does the Bible command us to celebrate Christ's birth? No. Jesus gave only one command about remembrance: his death, not his birth. Do this in remembrance of me, he said during the Last Supper. The early church faithfully followed this instruction, and by commemorating the sacrifice of Christ, not the day he was born. The focus of Scripture is always on his mission, his death, and his resurrection, not the date of his birth. How then should Christians respond to all this information? First, we should not condemn those who celebrate Christmas out of love and sincerity. Many have no awareness of its history, but we must not treat Christmas as a divine command or claim that Jesus was born on December 25th. We must stand on biblical truth. Christmas is a human tradition, built on pagan foundations, later adapted for political reasons. God does not save us through holidays or traditions. He saves us through faith in Jesus Christ alone. In the end, what God desires is not a decorated tree, a festival, or a date on the calendar. He desires a surrendered heart, a faithful life, and a commitment to walk in truth. When truth is revealed, God calls us to follow it. May the knowledge of this truth lead us to honor Christ in spirit and in truth, not in the traditions of men.